揽投资，国内专业的互联网理财平台，收益超银行活期数倍，已为众多用户带来丰厚收益。揽投资，理财新选择。
源于民族之心，兴于品质之巅，成于健康之路。有爱，有缘，有三元。
财新时间由三元乳业联合冠名播出。
Hi, my name is Travis Kalanick, and you're watching Whose Time.
全球手机召车软件的先驱 Uber 的创始人兼 CEO 特拉维斯·卡兰尼克，在8月份就将迎来他的39岁生日了。这位出生于洛杉矶的创业者，在创立 Uber 之前，曾经饱尝了创业失败的苦涩。1998年，从加利福尼亚大学洛杉矶分校辍学之后，他与6位好友成立了世界上首个 P2P 文件下载资源搜索引擎 Score.com 网站，却因被好莱坞29家公司起诉侵犯版权，最终破产。2001年，他第二次创业，与人合伙成立一家为企业提供网络服务的科技公司，却不想合伙人跳槽、投资人撤资等麻烦接踵而至。在那段艰苦的日子里，他不给自己开工资，并搬回母亲家里啃老，直到2007年才有了起色。卡兰尼克最终以1900万美元的价格将公司卖出。2009年，一次雪夜在巴黎街头叫不到出租车的经历，促使卡兰尼克萌生了开发手机打车软件的念头。Uber 公司应运而生，而其现在的估值据称已达400多亿美元。不久前，卡兰尼克来到财新传媒北京办公室，接受了财新传媒主编王硕的专访。
We have some questions about you. What did you learn from this experience to make Uber a success?
You know, the interesting part about failure is all about the definition. But by most people's definitions, I've had some failures. My last company, I sold the company in acquisition and made some money. And the first 4 years of that company, I made no salary. One of those years, I lived at my parents' house because I didn't have anything. So when it ultimately was sold for something, it was a huge success for me, and I still look at it that way. But in terms of how entrepreneurs might think about, oh, the really big company, it was a failure from that perspective, but I didn't view it that way. So it just depends. I've definitely had my share of failures, but I've always enjoyed the journey, and that for me is what it's all about.
So after redefining a failure in your way, tell us what have you learned from your previous experience to make Uber a success?
Well, certainly, let's say my last company, which I did for almost 8 years, right? It was hard. I was building something very complex that I was in love with what I was building, what me and my team were building, because it was just such a small company. We were maybe 6 or 7 people when we got acquired. It forced me to be have a really I had a lot of attention to detail, not just in one thing, but in everything. Why? Because if I had to make it perfect to just get a little bit of success. It had to be perfect, and perfect didn't mean just in one area. It had to be perfect in everything. And because there were only 6 of us, and so I'm like the CTO, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the head of sales, you know.
You can't be perfect on all these things.
Well, you have to be when you're doing a hard startup. And so I think one of the things that I got from my experience that has helped me with Uber is that I got good at a lot of different things. Remember, I was a computer engineer. I was very good at technical things, coding, software, but I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know finance. I didn't know any of this. So the kind of entrepreneur I am with Uber is one that can go deep on the details, but can do it on a lot of different areas. And why that's important for Uber is because it's a very complex system. And you can't just be good at one thing. You have to see everything in order to get the right answer. And if one thing's a little bit off, it can change that answer dramatically.
And is there any personal reason you choose to revolutionize public transportation?
Well, look, I'm from Los Angeles, and it has traffic like Beijing. So I spent a lot of time driving. I spent years of my life driving. But really what it comes down to is in San Francisco, before Uber, it was very, very difficult to get a ride anywhere. Taxis were almost impossible to get. Parking was very difficult. So you had to drive everywhere, but then you'd have to spend 20 minutes looking for parking. And so this was really solving a need that myself, my co-founder, and really our 100 friends, because at the beginning, and so it was that personal need that it came from.
And how much time you work on a daily basis, and do you intend to slow it down a little bit in the future?
Look, I think the way I look at this is we're running a marathon, not a sprint. Now, we are world-class marathoners, so we will push right to the edge, but it is not a sprint. And so you have to endure beyond just this week or beyond just this month, and you have to find where, I call it the red line, in your car when the RPMs, when it gets to the red, right? You have to know where your own personal red line is, and you want to push your limits. You want to go beyond what you thought was possible, but you have to do it in a somewhat balanced way.
自2014年以来 ，Uber 在中国市场动作频频，表现引人注目，也就引发了舆论对于召车服务究竟应该如何发展的热烈讨论。作为其全球商业版图中最为醒目的一站 ，Uber 对于中国市场尤为重视，用接地气的人民优步作为品牌的中文名。在访谈中谈及 Uber 时，卡兰尼克不止一次将话至嘴边的英文 Uber 收住，改用中文发音的优步。而对于中文发音的人民二字，他也是驾轻就熟。
Your China strategy is very customized to the local markets environment. For example, you brand your service as 人民优步. Why use 人民?
We had a lot of discussion about this, and it felt inspiring. It felt natural. It felt local.
And it works.
And it works, so we got lucky. But that's where it came from, and it felt like the right thing to do. We weren't sure it was going to work, but it did, and we're really happy that it did.
And tell us how Chinese you want Youbu China to be.
Somebody suggested that I should be applying for Chinese citizenship.
Funny.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. But how about this? I've spent over 50 days in China in the last 6 months, which is showing a commitment to the operation. And honestly, as an entrepreneur, this is where so much of the exciting stuff is happening, so I just want to be here. So how Chinese can you be? I think for a company that at least started foreign but is now becoming Chinese, the standard or the bar for being Chinese is higher than a traditional Chinese company. So we have to go above and beyond in becoming truly Chinese.
4 of Youbu's top 10 cities are in China. How did you get such an achievement in such a short time?
Well, look, I don't know if I take complete credit for it. I think the way technology spreads and is socialized here in China is remarkable, and it speaks to the tools, the ways that the communication tools that exist here in China. I mean, when something works and it works well, it spreads very fast in this country, and faster than we've seen anywhere else in the world.
Including America.
Including America, by far. And what's interesting about that is then you say, well, why is it growing so fast in China? Well, I believe it's because of the way Chinese people and Chinese social products allow people to interact and socialize and spread the word about things that are interesting. And that's interesting because that means every new technology that comes out will spread faster in China, right? That speaks to what the future might look like. And where some of the innovation is really starting to happen here. And that's exciting. And for an entrepreneur, that means I want to spend more time here.
Youbu China is seeking funding right now. And how much money do you want to raise? And how are the interests from the investors?
So I think we're seeing a lot of interest. A lot of people have tried our product and they appreciate the experience. More important than the exact amount is making sure we have the right kinds of partners. We could have continued to run Youbu as a part of Uber Global, but it was important for us to make it a Chinese company, and get Chinese investors, just like we have Chinese general managers and management operating and building the business. We should have Chinese shareholders as well. So it will be in the billions, right? But most important is that it will be great partners that we feel great about building our business with.
When you enter into other markets, do you always build an independent company, like Youbu China?
No, this is the only time we've done it, because China is so different than the rest of the world. And we believe that that sort of understanding how different it is, that it should be an independent entity, again with separate management, separate headquarters.
在打车软件遍地开花的中国市场，来自国外的优步要想站稳脚跟，绝非易事。Uber 融入中国本地市场的努力，已经掀起了一场硝烟四起的竞争。6月下旬，以自有车辆运营照车服务为卖点的神州租车，以一组名人广告影射 Uber 安全性不佳，引发了一场舆论大战。
Last week, a local competitor, 神州租车 or Car Inc., launched an ads campaign targeting Youbu. It accused Youbu of unsafe, unreliable, and untrustworthy. What would you respond to such accusations?
Look, I think competitors often say unsubstantiated things in order to gain market share. I think in this particular case, they may have regretted the ad that they put out there originally. At the end of the day, we focus on customers, and it's absolutely important for us to have the safest, most reliable ride out there. And I think that's why so many consumers are moving towards Uber, is because of the safety, the reliability, as well as affordability. And so we feel good about the product that we have out there, and I think consumers moving towards this product shows that it's meaningful to them as well.
Have you ever thought about fighting back in a similar way?
Look, I think what we found, even with all of the competitive tactics that have been taken, what we found is that our business continues to grow, right? Consumers continue to find Uber to be a great way to get around their city, and something that they love the product and the service. So I've really instructed the team to just keep focusing on building our business and stay focused on that. And if we're doing the right things for the consumer, I think everything will turn out okay.
Didi and Kuaidi used to be fierce competitors against each other. Now they merge. So in the future, is it even a remote possibility that you can work with this company?
I mean,
at least to end the subsidy war.
The subsidy war. I mean, the thing that happens is when we go into a city, when we first launch, you have to invest in the city and invest in the service to make it work. You know, when somebody opens up the app, the first person that opens up the app needs cars to be there. And you need to give the drivers confidence that they can make a good living. So at the beginning, you invest, right? But when you get really, really big, you can't do subsidies because you'll go out of business, right? If you do billions of trips a year, you can't give out 6 kwai per trip. You just can't, right? And so when you get really big, you basically have to be break even. And so ultimately, the end of the subsidy war is really just the end of subsidies because you are just doing so many trips at scale that your only choice is to become profitable.
When the taxi have been driven out of business, right?
No, I mean that's not how it works, right? Remember, we're in over 300 cities around the world, and there are taxis in every city that we're in. Remember, taxis have the exclusive right that if somebody puts their arm up, they can go pick that person up. Only taxis can do that. And that will be what taxis do forever. So where Youbu steps in Chinese cities is to help serve the city, not with people raising their arm, but for people who do need to get around their city. And there need to be more of these shared cars, right, to help people get around their city. And remember, that's great because for a fully utilized taxi or a fully utilized Uber, it takes 10 cars off the road because it's shared amongst so many people in a day. And so when 15% of a city's space is just storing cars, imagine what's possible when you get that 15% back.
You were talking about reducing subsidies, but in China, how could you keep the customer loyal to you if the customer care about is just price, no price?
Well, here's the thing: we don't really subsidize price for the consumer. The consumer price points that we have are stable and sustainable. But on the driver side, in order to get enough drivers to be confident that the Uber system works for them and they can make a living, we have put in extra incentives when they first get started so that they can be comfortable giving it a try.
Oh, you just provide subsidy to the drivers.
That's correct.
补贴公示下更低廉的价格、更好的用车体验，这一切都使互联网服务对于传统的出租车行业的冲击日益扩大。在不少城市，代表新兴行业的专车司机与出租车司机之间的冲突此起彼伏，而同样的故事早在全球其他一些国家的大城市上演。在法国，与出租车业的抵制有关，当局还在近期拘留了2名 Uber 高管。
There are open confrontations between Youbu drivers and the taxi drivers in several cities, and local governments are also raiding several offices of yours in China. So it tells us how thoroughly your business model is challenging the status quo. So are you working with the government, the central government or the local governments to sort out a solution?
I mean, look, it's incredibly important when progress and change is happening in a city, that also we partner with the government for stability, right? And the GMs of these cities, they partner with city governments to have like a day-to-day relationship so that progress and stability can come together.
Apple is doing business aggressively in China, but Google chose to leave Chinese market years ago. Both are still great companies. Yeah. What kind of lessons you learn from such experiences of the other great companies in China?
You know, again, I think the company, we've tried to look at as many examples of success here in China as possible. And those companies that have come in and looked at things new and came in sort of, understand that they're a visitor and they should be a humble visitor and should learn. And find guides and partners to help them, as they learn. I think while also being curious and solving problems, like that is the approach you take, or that we're taking to expanding and to building a business here in China.
随着公司规模的不断扩大，目前的 Uber 不仅仅局限于专车服务的一方天地，而是积极的拓展新的服务项目。从推出预订邮轮的 Uber Boat， 到快速将餐饮送达的 Uber Eats， 再到进军物流业，打造城市物流网络，让载着乘客的司机能顺路取外卖、百货和包裹。Uber 开拓新市场的雄心不小。
There are many other companies copying your model and applying it into other businesses. So in your view, what industries are ripe to be Uberified?
Oh, wow. I think there's a lot of them. We have some experiments that we're working on, right? So in Los Angeles, Chicago, Toronto, New York, and Barcelona, we have something called Uber Eats. Uber Eats. So what happens is you push a button, and somebody delivers lunch in 5 minutes. That's kind of interesting. The way we look at it is Uber's in the business of delivering cars in 5 minutes. But once you deliver cars in 5 minutes, there's a lot of things you can deliver in 5 minutes.
But the car is mobile.
But you could put a lot of, you could put food in a car, right? You can put a lot of things in a car. So once you can deliver the car in 5 minutes, there's a lot of things you can deliver in 5 minutes. And so that's how we think about it, right? We do something called Uber Rush in New York, which is like a messenger service. We deliver packages, right? So a lot of different things you can do.
And you don't put up any ads, right? But your marketing ops are brilliant. So why do you choose this no ads marketing approach?
Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of ads you're talking about, right? So we generally don't. And it's because we find that if you provide a great experience and you capture people's imaginations, you do something fun and interesting and different that they haven't seen before, the benefit of that is far outweighs what you can get with an ad. And the way these things happen is, this goes back to the GMs that are running cities. When they have an interesting idea, they just go with it. And that's part of the fun, right? That's part of the fun, whether it be Uber boats in Hangzhou or, Uber Hero or some things we've done like with Avengers. There's just so many different things we've done on the marketing side, I think, that are fun. And transportation is typically sort of a boring industry. Uber has made it exciting again.
What do you envision for Uber in, let's say, 5 years?
I mean, 5 years is so long. This is our second operating year here in China. Look, maybe it goes back to our mission, right? The mission for Yobu is transportation as reliable as running water, everywhere, for everyone, right? And certainly that starts with moving people, but it could be moving other things too, and we're open to that. And that's how we think about it. And so that gives you a little bit of the roadmap of how we think about the world and where we're going.